Okay, council, it's 4:30. 4:31 actually, nearly. We'll start proceedings. First, councillors. First thing I'd like to do is acknowledge the traditional custodians, the land we meet on, the Wiradjuri people, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Just to inform council, I believe we are being live streamed, which means everything you say will be picked up on the microphones and streamed live to our audience. Apologies. Do we have any apologies, please?
Certainly through the Chair, Councillor Wendy Tuckerman.
Please.
Certainly through Mr Mayor, we have Councillor Wendy Tuckerman, we have Councillor Rita O'Connor, and we have Councillor Tony Flannery.
And Matthew Stedman.
And Councillor Matthew Stadmiller.
Thank you. Can I have someone move those apologies be accepted? Councillor Rolls, seconded Councillor Horton. Thank you. All those in favour? Any disclosures of interest? I don't believe there's none to declare about that. Housekeeping. In the event of an emergency, councillors, we know the procedure through the double doors and to the right and out onto the footpath and await further instructions. Okay, councillors, one item on the agenda. Crown land negotiations. And the recommendation is that Council rescind motion 19-297 in relation to the Crown Lands Negotiation Program 2019.
I'm happy to move that recommendation, Mr Chair.
Moved Councillor Manchester. Seconded Councillor Walker. Thank you. Would you like to speak to the...
Yes, thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I think when this came up as a mayoral minute back in on the September meeting at Harden, we weren't given a lot of information with regards it, and some of the information that was on the minute, I believe, was incorrect. And then subsequently after that, I attended a presentation by Crown Lands Department, and within about 5 minutes of that presentation, I realised that we had made the wrong decision. There has been quite a bit of work done by our current staff in this process, plus the New South Wales Government are covering a lot of the costs that are involved in the transfer of the land, or the possible transfer of land. And then we look at the couple of projects that we've got going, and one in particular is the flood issue here in Young, and the I think it's the Cram Street area of land where we need to do a lot of retaining dams and walls. This is part of Crown Lands, and this would be part of negotiations, and we can't do much up there until we actually clear the Crown off or get approval from the Lands Council to work on it. I think this would expedite that and help us solve or resolve some of the issues with flooding here in the lower part of Young. I think they are the main issues, but there are certainly other issues that are in. But I think that having council already spent staff time and it's mentioned in the report of, I think it's something like about $140,000 since this came forward in 2017. I believe that we should be part of this program. It is a pilot program. And even though it may be opened up later on down the track to the other 110 councils or whatever the number is that missed out on this pilot scheme, we can't wait for that to possibly happen. I think we should grab hold of this and work with the government and not waste the money that we've already spent on it. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Manchester. Speaker against?
Yeah,
Councillor.
Mr Mayor, I just like to say that I won't be supporting the recommendation. It's undemocratic we were at the meeting here, those of us that were here at the meeting a week or so back, were told that only 19 councils had the opportunity out of some 100 councils in New South Wales. The decision had to be made by December this year. We were being bulldozed into making a decision, quite obvious. And that at the end of December, no other council would be permitted to apply. Now, that is definitely undemocratic. So that's one good reason. If you look at the paperwork here, the cons legal costs to review any draft agreements. We don't really know what the solicitors are going to cost us, charge us. We have no time to do it. Council staff time to participate in the program. I think Leanne mentioned at the meeting, last meeting, she'd been working on it since 2017. I think I stand correction, but that's as I understand it. And the Crown Reserve's Improvement Fund program no longer accessible. So what's it going to cost us? Who's going to pay it? And so I won't support that amendment. Thank you.
Councillor Horton, any speaker for it? Councillor Walker.
Yeah, no, I'll speak for it. It's sort of I take a completely sort of approach to Councillor Horton on those objections in that it is going to cost money. Whenever we do it, it's going to cost money, but the cost benefit far outweighs any short-term cost that there is at the moment. There is a round the table organised debate and discussion with the three main parties involved. That is the state, the local land interests, Aboriginal, and council. Done in a formal way is so much tidier way to do it, and the sooner the better. Like Councillor Manchester mentioned, there is so many points of interest that we have that need to be sorted out for strategic planning purposes. And if we can't do proper strategic planning without a sound knowledge of what the situation of the land tenancy is. So in my mind, it's just straightforward, and looking at this business paper that has been presented to us, it's very well laid out, and it makes sense to me, so I'll be supporting it.
Thank you for that, Councillor. Any councillors speak against it? Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Despite Council being advised at its September 2019 meeting that no costs had been incurred for this project, the report supplied to Council for this meeting clearly states the cost incurred as $140,000 under the guise of transition costs, and are yet to be incurred costs of $20,000, presumably for legals, plus unstated survey costs and unstated direct staff costs. What budget allocations has Council made for the project in its 2019-2020 operational budget? Or are such costs unfunded from within the current budget? The report lacks a final or total cost of the project. How can Council proceed with certainty, and I take on board Councillor Walker's comments about strategic direction there, if there is uncertainty attached to the direct expected financial impacts of this project? The report lacks details of a funding source and is silent on the matter of a funding risk in the section titled Risk Implications, even though there are unknown professional costs associated with the project, including legal and survey and internal staff costs. In Resolution 19297, Council has made it abundantly clear that the Council wished to be considered for withdrawal from the pilot on financial grounds. Why would financial risk be disregarded when the very basis of the decision to withdraw from the pilot is finance related? In respect to the matter of operational risk, what additional internal and external human resources are required to bring the project to conclusion, and at what cost? What works will not be done should internal resources be redirected to bring the project to conclusion? There is no estimate of effort required, yet I am led to believe that the project has significant work needs to meet a major milestone set for December 2019. Council will be looking to the commencement of its 2020-2021 budget process in December 2019. IPART has set the peg at 2.6% and general rates revenue modelling will need to be commenced. At the same time, the production of the 2018-2019 annual financial statements will be underway subject to external resource availability. In addition, in accordance with local government regulation and integrated planning and reporting guidelines, the 2018-2019 annual report will be required to be produced within 5 months of the end of the financial year. That is the 30th of November. This is a busy time of year for Hilltop staff, one punctuated by public holidays and a Christmas shutdown. In respect to the matter of reputational risk faced by Council, has any delegation been provided by the General Manager to staff such that the staff member may create an expectation as to project outcomes? What direct negotiations have taken place between the parties and the General Manager in regard to this project and potential outcomes? Council's adopted Code of Meeting Practice, paragraph 1912, states the General Manager is to implement without undue delay lawful decisions of Council. Section 335 of the Local Government Act defines the functions of the General Manager. In particular, I point to Section 335B, which states to implement without undue delay lawful decisions of the Council. In the order of 36 days has elapsed between the date of the Council resolved to request withdrawal and the date that a rescission motion was received. Can the General Manager please advise of a written advice of Council's lawful decision to seek withdrawal from the pilot program has been forwarded to the Minister, and if not, why not? It is clear to me on the basis of Council's request to withdraw that the basis of Council's request to withdraw has not changed, and I await advice from Minister Pavey in regard to Council's request.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
Through the Chair, would you like me to answer any of those questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, so bear with me, Councillor. That was a long oration, so I just want to make sure that I've got the questions that you've asked here. In relation to, if we can go back to July 2017, the Council actually committed resources to the program. So the resolution was commit to allocating the resources necessary to successfully deliver the program should the EOI be successful, and it was at that time. In relation to delegations to staff to negotiate, no staff has a delegation to actually negotiate the purchase or the sale of an asset. The role of the staff in that process are to prepare the information relevant to the program and actually work through that in a systematic way to actually understand what parcels Council may have an operational interest in, and also to understand what parcels may have joint interest, and to bring that information back through to management and to Council so that we can workshop that information with the hope that we can go into an agreed position during 2020, and the Crown allocates some 6 months to that process. In relation to the allocation of resources to the 31st of December, I believe my understanding is there's 6 days of negotiation required to complete the finalisation of looking through all the parcels. That has been programmed into Council's staffing time in relation to their delivery. Whether that is enough to resolve all of the parcels remains to be seen. Clearly, the importance of the program is that that would be the final date, and this is advice that we've received from the Crown, and we heard this in person from the Crown when they visited us at a recent workshop, is that that was the date that they had to have all of the interests back to the Crown so that they could actually then turn around and draft agreements with a view to consulting more broadly in relation to those agreements. So it's really a filtering process, and certainly that is a hard deadline at this point, and we would say that many of the councils are struggling with that deadline, and certainly the information that we received back from other councils as well as the Crown. In relation to transition costs, legal costs and survey costs, is going into the program, councils, the Crown and the Aboriginal Land Councils were talking about estimates around legal costs, etc. They weren't known at that point until the program actually got underway as to whether that would be significant or not, and certainly council's understanding at the time that the mayoral minute went up is that they could be substantial. In the workshop with the Crown, what they've conveyed to us is that they are indeed actually capturing a majority of costs. Why? Because the land will be vested to us and it will be unfettered. So indeed, for the Crown to be able to do that, they have to resolve all the issues on that tenure before they can actually transfer it across, and we would have take a claim over those assets as freehold assets. The critical part of the program is that for all parties, there are actually claims on the Crown assets. For council, as a land manager, we control and manage those assets, but we do not have unfettered access to that land. For the Aboriginal land councils, they have only the basis of claiming over that title, but again, they don't have unfettered access. The aim of the program is to actually resolve all the tenure issues for all parties, including the Crown. They have their own interests, and to lift and resolve those Aboriginal land claims permanently. And that is the financial, legal outcome of the program. We are being assured by the Crown, and we haven't not got this in writing, that the costs for council will really be around third-party advice around the transfer of assets. Yes, there may be survey costs, but any costs that could be incurred can clearly be directed to from council. Council has the ability to come back to staff and say, we do not want to incur costs beyond a certain point. So the survey costs are not known is because the majority of the land we're expecting to be transferred to us at no cost with no GST implications and no survey requirements. We certainly through the program could deliver that information to council to have a better understanding about what potentially may have additional costs, and council has the ability to be able to say we're interested or we're not interested. In relation to the written advice forwarded to the Minister, as I advised council at the time, is the letter had not been sent whilst it had been written. It had not been sent because the Crown had asked to come and meet and talk with council directly. So accordingly, we held that workshop last week, and as a result of that workshop, a rescission motion was put up and received, and a request for an extraordinary meeting was made to the Mayor. And this is where this issue is at, and I hope that I've answered the majority, if not all, of those questions for you, Councillor.
Thank you for that. Anyone else like to speak for the recommendation? I'll play a bit of leniency. Councillor Rolls.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to speak for the motion.
Yep.
I've just recently become involved with the Aboriginal Land Council through Hilltops Council as a representative. I see this program as an opportunity for us, the parties involved, to sit down and work out our interests on land that we would have in tenure in perpetuity. So it seems to me that this opportunity is for us to negotiate together, to work out what is in everybody's interests in solving any land debates. I presume that if we did not take up this opportunity for this program, which might be offered in the future, but I don't think it really matters if it's going to be offered or not. This is an opportunity for us now that I feel that we should take with both hands, because it means that we can work out claims or interests that we have in parcels of land, that if we don't take up that opportunity, in the future we might be faced with land claims that we have to work through, and surely there's a cost involved in that. There's a cost perhaps in working with it, but if the survey cost isn't involved, that's something that is not there. It seems to me that there's a possibility of more cost being involved if we do not take up this opportunity to work together and to work out which land will be in our interest to keep, especially when I think of the projects that we have in hand. And it also is a sign too, I think, that as a Hilltops community and as a Hilltops Council, we're willing to work collaboratively with our partners, both the Crown and also the Aboriginal Lands Council, in working out these relationships. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rolls. On that note, I'll speak against the rescission motion for obvious reasons. It was a mayoral minute that went up in the September meeting, and originally that was around stated that because of financial implement costs and staff resources. Since then I've got more concerns about the process. I've made some notes because I don't want to digress too much. But we had a workshop called the other day, and after that workshop I'll just make comment that I have more concerns and serious concerns after that workshop than I ever had before it. Only one current staff member has ever had anything to do with this program. No senior directors, GM or elected representatives. Up until last week, no one had heard from Crown Land. We had a workshop called, and staff were briefed and councillors were sent information and told that there would be senior representatives here from Crown Lands. That didn't quite happen. We had one member from Crown Lands come to visit us, and thank her very much for her time. The others were too busy apparently, and it wasn't important enough they were available for a phone hookup. That doesn't really cut it on something that apparently is so important. Last week I attended the Country Mayor's meeting in Sydney, and at the end of the meeting in general business, another mayor asked, did anyone know what was happening with the Crown Land Review? I won't mention his name. His council is actually in the program. At that time there was no response, so they asked that the chairperson request that Crown Land present to the next meeting of the Country Mayors and bring everybody up to speed with what was happening. After some more questions and comments around nobody knows, etc., I thought maybe I better speak. So I did, and said that I may be able to enlighten them a little bit, given that I had a workshop with Crown Lands the week before. So I told them what I'd learnt recently, and that was that Crown Land cannot tell us if the other 109 councils who are not involved in this program are going to be disadvantaged. The Crown Lands cannot tell the 18 councils who are in the program if we will be advantaged or disadvantaged. The Crown Lands tell us that all negotiating must be completed by 31st of December. Yes, 6 weeks. And Crown Lands will sign off by 31st of June 2020. I brought this matter to the General Manager's attention the other day and in a conversation and said, do you really, in good faith, think we could do this in 6 weeks? And the answer was no, and I am of the same belief. Crown Lands cannot tell us if this program will be continued or not, because I believe they don't know if it will be successful or a disaster. The whole process is full of unknowns. Since that meeting in Sydney, I have had calls from another General Manager and another Mayor commenting that they have no knowledge of what or where this program was at. I told them that I was much the same until last week. This was brought to a head by a motion I moved. And after all that, we are told that the risk to our reputational damage by withdrawing. I find that hard to believe. Unless staff, without any delegations, have raised the hopes and expectations of anyone they have been dealing with, I find no reason to be concerned about our reputation in that matter. What would concern me is if this council, without any consultation with our broader community, or more importantly, without speaking to any user group who may be affected by this program, come out today and say, yes, we are going to start from scratch tomorrow. In under 6 weeks, we will have this negotiated and this program finished. How hypocritical would that be? Given that I've heard councillors sit here after projects been on the books for 2 years and say we haven't consulted. Until last week, we hadn't heard of this from staff. How hypocritical would it be? We tell our community we will consult with them and we want to take them along on the journey. And yet here we are as elected representatives and we haven't even been consulted or informed about this project ourselves till last week. It's mentioned quite often to me about the number of mayors and ex-mayors and administrators around this table. It took 5 weeks at my suggestion that maybe something needs to be done because we shouldn't be working on this project because there was a resolution on the books to say that we wanted to withdraw that had been ignored. But no one had even come forward with a rescission motion until it was suggested you may need to do something. That was brought up last week. As I said, the original resolution was about putting it on financial grounds and withdrawing. I mention that because, as I said, it's taken 5 weeks for a rescission motion to be put up here, and we're told we can finish it all in 6 weeks. In regard to the original resolution, nothing has changed to our financial ability to meet the costs that are unknown since that meeting. But there are a couple of things that have been brought to light. One is being the lack of transparency and consultation with the elected councillors and our community on this matter. The second is the fact that we are not the only council who don't know a great deal about this program. This program, I'm listening, is so important and so crucial, and the timing is so crucial, yet staff have been holding this for 2 years, and we were told at a workshop the other day hadn't been to council because our calendars and our schedule was that busy, they didn't think they could get a meeting in to brief us on this. But after it's brought to a head and a rescission motion's put in 5 weeks later, they have a workshop and tell us we have to sign off by the 31st of December. As I said, without consultation to our wider community, and especially to any user group who may be affected. Councillors, I will be standing by my initial resolution. So on that note, spoke for and against. I've allowed a bit of latitude. We've had 3 speakers for and 3 against. I'll put the recommendation that Council rescind the motion 19297 in relation to the Crown Lands negotiation program. Those in favour? Those in favour? 3. Those against? That rescission motion is lost. Thank you, councillors. Meeting closed 4:57.